Okay, well, later on, I find out here that the U.S. Marshals here went to the U.S. Attorney looking for the 50,000 or $1,050,000. In other words, I was worth $1 million or so to them, plus the 50. But see, they could turn me over, but they still were short 50 grand. So on that basis here, they couldn't release me, apparently. So what they did, they sold the whole contract into the international market, because that was the only place there was enough money to pay for it. And that's what we saw here when we saw that 10% here. Right. See, that's the kind of money they were dealing with here that can pay off all of the other indebtedness. Well, as I watched the Wall Street Journal over time, pretty soon I began to see that the 189 cities was finally tallied at 200. Now, isn't it interesting here that that's an even 200 cities? Well, there's a scheme in the entire world here on this regional financing that whether there's going to be 200 cities or hubs under one super city, or whether worldwide there's only going to be 200 cities that are going to be the core region here for the regional financing of the world. That's probably what it is. I'm not sure. There's a lot of other people that are into some of this here, a lot more sophisticated than I am. So, but you're getting enough out of that as to where I'm going with that. Yes. There was a year and a half of looking at this here with people there who were highly educated here in engineering, that were looking at this and telling me here how to read the journals. And I mean, I wouldn't hardly know how today, except here that I know all this stuff here has relative values, that using this right here, this kind of mathematics here, you can link it all together, and you can start to decipher the substance of what they're really talking about, or the mystery, or Mystery Babylon. Is that what it is? Because when we get into the draft, and when we start to talk about the draft, then you see this is going to start to show sum this up here with the numbers, because the numbers on the draft are not getting into the capital. But we can get in that together, but you see the capital, you see when you write a personal check, you write the numbers here at the end of who you're paying to, and then you start with a capital letter here. If it's $500, you're going to write the letter or the word 500. But you see, it begins with a capital letter. And it's a sentence. And when you have a sentence here, what do you commit the sentence to? You know, but you see when these drafts that we've been using here, you see the sum, and then you see you just put the number in again here. You're not gonna give a capital to that number. Say if you got the number 5, you're just gonna put the number 5 in there. You see 50 with 2 zeros, and then it's going to be DOLS 00 cents, CTS. But you see the capital letter is not being used here to be the backside of that number here. You've got a number both places, which would be the summary judgment.
So
sum.
The little check writers.
Yeah.
They didn't capitalize it, did they? The old check writers, they wouldn't capitalize anything.
They didn't?
The check writers?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. The check writers here just,
Just like you explained.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's summary.
S-U-M-M-A-R-Y.
And Mary here is the mother here of the Redeemer. Not the father, the mother. Some Mary. And there's more than one Mary. We also have Mary Magdalene too.
There's a couple more too, I think.
Yeah. So you see that whenever you look at a broker's statement, you see he's got a lot of some Marys on there.
Yeah.
Depends on whether it's on the left or on the right.
Yeah.
You know, or top or bottom, you know, or on the shoulders or in the pockets or at the feet. You know. I've suspected for a long time that the brokers, actually, that brokerage statement of account that they give you from a stockbroker or a commodity broker would be the person. I mean, that is a man here, and then every aspect has numbers on both sides here, whether he's a cripple or he's not, or he's whole, or it could be the pirate here with one wooden leg and one eye and one hand. You see, like we got Long John Silver.
Yeah.
That's a national figure too. So he doesn't have two of any of those here, only one. So he's a pirate.
Wow. Yeah, not balanced.
Hmm?
Doesn't balance.
High rate. Pi, 22 sevenths. You see. So then I'll leave that for the mathematicians.
Okay.
But that's
not
just
me.
3.17 is pi.
huh?
Which is 22 cents.
Oh, okay.
3.14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
3.141. Okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah. High rates. So you see, it's talking about gyrations or cycles. And that's what we're talking about with this regional financing and everything. It's everything here that operates in cycles, business cycles. So those are areas you have to get into to understand fully what the Bible is talking about, because it's talking about commerce. And a lot of times when it's talking about the door to the house, for instance, here, this could be the warehouse, see? And it's not a door here that you and I just walk in as an individual here. It's probably a door here that you have to open the door and get the forklift in to take out your pallet here, and you're buying in bulk. You're not, and so you don't understand the terms a lot of times until you look at it from that standpoint. Because the basis to magnify your understanding of that Bible is, of course, it's Greek, but you have to get into studying the history of medieval Europe to get a full grasp on it, because the rules are the rules of the dowry. Curtsy and dowry, curtsy and dowry.
Heraldry too? Heraldry too?
Heraldry, it all goes with it. It all has its relative value. So the dowry and curtsy. So what is the dowry, our modern dowry in this country today? Huh?
Dow Jones?
The Dow Jones Industrial.
Oh.
In dust trials.
Dust trial average, yeah. Dust trials. That's right.
In dust. Wasn't it Martha here that washed the dust here from the feet of the Master? Or anointed him with oil? Why did she do that? Here, maybe so that the dust would stick on his feet? Because oil attracts dust.
Yeah, it does.
Japanese custom.
Huh?
Japanese custom.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, Japanese, you know, here, that's vertical.
Yeah.
Vertical integration here, and then they move from right to left here in their language. Except that the Japanese here are an island, so that they're just the imperialists,
Right, like England.
just like Britain. Imperialism. You know, and that's what people like Peter the Great and all of them finance here, their move into the taking over the world commerce. The Great Bond. And that's all imperialism here, but you see the Britain is horizontal, and of course the Japanese are vertical.
What's the currency?
Well, the curtsy was the lady apparently
Yeah?
bowing to the king, in other words here, recognizing the, or giving to the king there his recognition. All you have to do is look at the ballroom floor and see here what the protocol was. Because the female is the keeper of the house. Nowadays they're keeping a lot of houses. Except yours. But somebody, yeah. But that was the ladies in waiting that got yours.
They were waiting for a house.
Well, see, that's what the king gets. He gets the queen and the ladies in waiting. That's all the agencies.
I mean, like, what would the curtsy be today?
Well, it would be the agency recognizing the account or claim here of the king. But you see, that's the artificial one. That's got to be the straw man, the business organization. See, the name in all caps. You see, because like I said before, when they ask me, well, who's your employer? Well, then I give them my name in all capital letters. I mean, but
How do you do that?
because I don't do it orally here, I just do it with a pen. If I get into it with them on the phone, you see, there's times here when they call me and they're making a promotion over the phone and they say, well, just give me your credit card, or they keep on moving and assuming here that, oh, I'm going to give them my bank information, but I give them the name of the bank and stuff here, but I absolutely won't let them into the bank.
The account number.
And then, you know, if they get cute, I just tell them, I'm not going to pay with a debt instrument. I'm going to pay with a money order. Oh, well, you can't pay a money order over the phone. And I said, yeah, I know. So just give me the information here and I'll settle it here with a money order.
Send me another presentment that I can accept and return.
Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting to
That's what he said. Put it
just
in writing.
grab up like three $100 bills and stuff them in an envelope with one of these bills and send it to them, because they don't want cash.
No.
Right, they don't.
They would probably return that. Be
Oh,
interesting
yeah,
to
or
test.
eventually they would stick it in some abandoned account, but we're gonna get into that because I've got some letters here, it's simple, but for you to just write in here to your states and ask for the information here if they're holding any assets in your name.
Did I understand that you indicate that most states have something on each of us, or some municipality somewhere in a different state that we're connected?
Probably, because you see, I found out my account, the state of Minnesota, when I started to crowd them, then they assigned the account here into a collection agency in South Dakota. So I pursued the outfit in South Dakota to see if I could get their articles of incorporation, and I found out here that they had registered, and they were registering, I don't know if you'd call it a registered agent, but you see, because there's no registration anymore, you know, they're actually on the public side, but they did show a president, a vice president, and a treasurer. And then they moved out of state here, and then they were operating out of Iowa, but they were registered in South Dakota. And I know that the office number of this collection agency that they gave me used to be an Internal Revenue Office here years ago. So all they did here is just registered themselves as a credit union, is what it actually turned out to be.
Oh.
And then they were the ones that were the collectors on the account. So when I pursue them, they don't always answer. You're going to have to hit them pretty square before we're going to make them and flush them out. But they had already given me a bill while I was in prison yet. Is when I got this information, they sent me the bill, and it showed it was 15 different accounts under my Social Security number. That was $66,666.60 a piece, plus interest. So they were worth a little more than that. There was just under $5,000 in interest here that had been accumulated on that. So it was a little over $1 million. It was about $1.4 million, almost $1 million, $1,005,000. Just under $5,000 in interest due. And so I know that the state of Minnesota farmed it out here and said, that's your tax and you are the taxpayer. Of course I am. We all know that. And they're collecting my tax. Belongs to me, and they said so. They said they're collecting my tax.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Gosh, that's right.
Takes the burden off your back.
yeah, well, that's what an acceptance is, you see. And once you accept, you can't be the holder in due course. You got to have a license for that.
Oh, that's right.
And so, if you're going to do any collection on it in one thing or another, you see, you're going to have to go through a registered company or a registered agent of some kind to be able to get any remedy. So that's why I'm saying that even if the parties, you can't prove here that they have a license of some sort there, you actually have to go through some registered agency to be able to get the release here of the property. It's just a matter of positive and negative energy here that has to go into the account to render it zero.
It's got to cross the bar to go to the fiscal. We'd say registered.
Yeah, it probably would have to cross the bar, yeah, to get into the fiscal year and or out. But it has, you see, it's got to be rendered an exchange. Not a transfer. A transfer here is an indication here that there's no exchange. Because it's a transfer is just between industrial organizations. Oops.
Oh.
You see?
That's
But the
right.
exchange means here that it has penetrated a foreign border. That's what Hitler used here to wage war on his neighbors here. He staged an event here that penetrated the borders, and now he had an incident report. And that's an incident report that you use in physics here, where a forensic examiner can lay out his spreadsheet and give an account, a registered account here of the incident. See, because they can't admit that there's any money or any value. You see, the value of dollars there that we talk about a lot of times really isn't dollars anymore, because when you have the credit side, those are just international units. So you see algebra comes into effect here. You see X equals 50,000, or they can even use another number. You know, 5 or 4 could equal 50,000, or, you see. Because I happen to know that in the prison, when they would come on me here with a fine here, $100,000 here, you're going to have to pay this. Well, then I'd tell my counselor, I said, well, then get me Form 24, or the Bureau of Prisons Form 24, and I'll see you in your office tonight here, and I'll pay the fine. So, in this one case there, he shows up in there, but he doesn't show up with Form 24. Oh, I said, why don't you have the Form 24? And he said, well, this form that I've got will do the same thing here. It's just that this is the long form. Well, of course it's a long form. It just takes longer here for the payment here to find its way home. But you see, I didn't fight with them, because anytime they've got something to offer here, I'm willing to take a look, because I want them to reveal all their secrets. And the longer I stay in there and the more incidents we have, the more I'm going to learn, you see. Because every time they do something here, they have to reveal their secrets.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you see, when he asked me then, see, he ran away from me for about a week. Almost every day I was trying to corral him here and get this thing paid so I could get on my way and get home. I didn't want to sit in there for the 7 years here that they had me looking at. And he kept running away from me. Well, then I found out later on here why he was running and what was going on during that time. He was visiting with the U.S. Attorney back in our home area, you know, and he's trying to figure out how he's going to present himself here when I corner him here for the paying of the fine, because he knows. When I told him, you be there with Form 24, he knows here I'm going to pay the fine off. Because that form is a drawdown on inmate's personal account.
Oh.
That's essentially a draft.
Yeah, but you know what it says? Well, here, maybe I should write it on here. It would be all right. Because I don't think they use Form 24. I think they've disguised it in a lot of other numbers now. But it says...
It's on the internet.
Okay, then there's a box in here for you to put the amount. That's basically here what it says on the first line, and then it goes, charge inmate's account $100, and charge the same to this person. Then of course it goes on down, there's a place here for somebody to sign on in the business office, initials. You have to put the purpose. And then you just sign it with your inmate number. Okay. Then, you know where this goes? It goes to the business office. There's probably 2 people in there that have to initial it. And then when it goes into the business office, it goes on a schedule. Okay, and so this here, and it has a serial number on it and everything, just like a check.
Oh.
It looks almost like a check, and it's got carbon copies under it. That information here is just condensed and it goes on a schedule, and then every week or two or a month, it used to be a month, I think, at one time, and then I think it went out every 2 weeks, I think. But, and that schedule goes directly to a U.S. Treasury dispersing office. And when it gets there, the U.S. Treasury dispersing office makes out a check that looks just exactly like your Social Security checks or whatever. And we had one of these made out to pay a guy's taxes here on his property here in southern Minnesota. $8,014 taxes on his real estate. And they made that check out directly to the county treasurer in his county.
This is while he was in prison?
While he was in prison. And see, he thought that, you see, people that are in prison there have a commissary account here that you can spend out of. You go to the commissary, you buy this stuff here, and they check it off of your commissary account. That's what everybody believes is their personal account. It's not theirs. That account here is the commissary's account. Your personal account is always at zero. You see? You see, that's what your personal account is. So they're going to take you in and they're going to interrogate you to find out how much money is in your account. And how many people say, well, the money is in there to cover here what I'm doing? Well, no, not really. Not really, there isn't any money. So you see, the collector is collecting information, and that's what the lieutenant's office in there does.
To get you to witness against yourself. So
That's right, that's what all the interrogation is for, and it's done in its most crude and most simple form at the prison. That's where they develop all this stuff.
What was the for? I didn't hear what he said.
it's developed to get you to witness against yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but you see, but here, charge the inmate's account with that much and charge the same to whoever you write it out to. And that's just exactly who the Treasury check was made out, warrant number and everything else on
That's a
there.
double charge, basically.
Right, because, so
That's a double charge.
Yeah,
it comes to zero.
yeah. Okay, well, that's what you're doing with your draft.
Oh,
Offer and acceptance.
Right.
I finally understand it. It took long enough.
You see, and then at the draft here, you're doing the accounting on the bottom and telling them here the account's zero today. You know, current amount, zero. It might not be zero here, maybe we're putting the O in there here.
Maybe we need to put the slash through it.
Oh, yeah, the O.
That's the difference between the O and the zero, you know, it's got a slash through it.
Right.
The O has got a slash?
No,
No,
zero
The
has a
zero
slash.
has, oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Or a dot.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Or a dot.
Yeah.
Well, see, we used a lot of those here in, see, when they used to post our stuff here as to where you had to be and what time and one thing and another here, why then pretty soon these, when you're getting close to going home, then these start showing up here on the,
What is it?
well, on the bulletin board here,
Uh-huh.
whenever we go back here to the barracks here, when we look here to see here where we're scheduled to be the next day. And so they've always, usually it's a pair of them. But you see on the draft, yeah, you know, the accounting that we do,
After he had a court order to open that account with Norwest Bank, I put his $77 million default in there and started drawing on it. And then I appointed Rod and Dan as Special United States Magistrate to handle the account. And so that we wouldn't be overdrawn, I had them both put some of their funds in there. So they put about $600 million apiece in there. And we have quite a few hundred million and a few billion to put in that account in case we ever get overdrawn.
well then, that information here is just condensed and it goes on a schedule, and then every week or two or a month, it used to be a month I think at one time, and then I think it went out every 2 weeks, I think. But, and that schedule goes directly to a U.S. Treasury dispersing office. And when it gets there, the U.S. Treasury dispersing office makes out a check that looks just exactly like your Social Security checks or whatever. And we had one of these made out to pay a guy's taxes here on his property here in southern Minnesota. $8,014 taxes on his real estate. And they made that check out directly to the county treasurer in his county
This is while he was in prison?
while he was in prison.
So today, though, what we're here for is we're concerned about the case of the People versus Aurora Quicho. And essentially, Aurora was meeting with a car salesman, and it was understood that she was paying with a private check, which implies that it's on a closed account, because an open account is public, closed account is private. She was paying for it with a private check. They, of course, did not really understand that, but it didn't matter, because what they did understand was that she would not take delivery of the product until they received the funds. Okay? That's the key thing right there. So this is not a case of going in and stealing from somebody or writing a bad check to get something. That's not it at all. It's a special kind of check, special procedures, and the procedures have to be followed. If you don't follow the procedures, it's not going to work. So she let them know that. They agreed to that. Unbeknownst to her, they called the cops. And while they were in the middle of their negotiations, and I think she had a check partially written, the cops showed up and arrested her, charged her with 4 different charges. One of them was commercial burglary.
Now, you can only use this for public debt, not private debt, like person to person. This is only for public debt. This is only for discharging debt from a promissory note for like a bank, a mortgage company, a loan company, a car company, or something to that effect. Not for individual, private, between individuals. You can't write me a $100,000 promissory note and me get any benefit from it. That's illegal.
Start using them. Join the Association of Canadian Consumer Purchasers. Exchange $125 cash for $2,500. Would you be willing to exchange $125 cash for $2,500 on a debit card if the $2,500 could only be used for food, hydro bill, gym membership, medical, dental, repairs and improvements on your home, municipal property taxes, personal toiletries, and it came with full emergency coverage? Now, what if half of that $125 we got from you every month we held on to you for you in trust, and once or twice a year you got to disperse that money to artists and volunteers of your choice who have joined the program, and we used the remainder for setup and operating cost, and the extra was set aside for no-interest loans for members to buy property with. There is, of course, a catch. You can't buy anything which can be resold, although we will support limited clothing purchases once a year. But the following year, if you need to replace your clothes, you must donate them to charity, and you must purchase from Canadian manufacturers. You cannot use it for your business or profession or calling. It is only available to individuals for their personal consumption.
Things like that. And everyone asked me, why $5 billion? And actually there's $10 billion, because there was $5 billion in equity then there was $5 billion in damages. So everyone on the planet, except for those that cause harm, damage to the people, everyone has 10 billion. And I set that for a very specific reason, because of what I knew was going to come down at the end of the pipeline.
EFTPOS readers. So we've set up tools and technologies so that now you can transfer credits through mobile to mobile by touching it. You can now use one of the cards to be able to swipe in any Paymark EFTPOS machine. You can also use the QR code card on the back, which you can use to tap on our own EFTPOS readers. Or let's say you left the card at home, download our mobile app, and you can now get your mobile and tap it on the screen. So at the moment, we're going to be holding business dinners right across the country to invite all the businesses on board and to explain to them how it all works.
So what we're going to do is we're going to set up escrow accounts for the gas companies, the electricity companies, the water companies, and the council tax. Yeah? So when you get your council tax bill or your electricity bill or your water bill or your gas bill, you'll be able to pay those through the escrow account and settle that bill. And when they say to you, well, you haven't paid your bill, you can say, well, yes, I have. Here's my bank statement, says so. And they're going to say, well, hang on a minute, that money's just been created out of nothing. And we're going to say, and we are going to say to them, guess what? So is yours.
There are those of you out there now who will hear people saying, oh, this Weir Bank thing and re-movement, it's a sham, it's a fraud, it's a Ponzi scheme, it's something designed to get £10 a month from you, and there's this rumour of a checkbook and real assets. And you don't know whether this is true or not. You have a heart feeling that you think it's true, but there's always those people who are a little bit, should we say, in the balance, indecisive, and can be rocked either way. But let me just assure everybody now, by putting this officially into the public domain in this video, that this is a genuine movement. It has good roots, it has what's called a solid ancestry, and a very, very deep and powerful spiritual hierarchy that rests behind it. There are people involved in this, both on planet and off planet, to an extent that it would make your head spin if you could actually maybe comprehend it fully.
Right, they're angry. You rob their banks, you steal their money, you live in their country. I told you this was what was going to happen, that there was no other way for it to end.